Welcome back to the Grinders Podcast. This should be episode number 1, but it's episode number 2. This is the actual first winner of the Grinders tournament. Introduce yourself.
Brian Davis, recreational poker player.
Recreational. That's it?
Yeah.
I think a little above recreational.
I don't know really what you call it.
Yeah. Well, you can't label yourself. That's one thing I've learned.
Well, under promise, over deliver. How about that?
Okay. So what's a? You can't say unprofessional poker player. I mean,
What is professional?
What is professional?
Don't do it for a living.
No. Have you ever?
No.
Could you? Would you?
That's a better question is would. Could,
you?
everybody can do anything.
Correct.
Would I? Same answer, probably yeah.
Well, I mean, what does it take to be a pro anyway? Do you have to win the World Series of Poker to be considered a pro?
I mean, you're right. Pro is pretty much relative.
Right.
Winning's winning. I mean,
Correct.
where you win at goes a long way in saying if you're a pro or not. But if you're winning consistently at 2-5 in a fucking hole in the wall somewhere, then
Nobody ever knows.
well, that's probably the difference. But do we all play poker to be known? Not really. Pretty much all play poker to win.
Yeah.
If you could win what you win in the World Series of Poker with everybody knowing about it, or win what you could win in the World Series of Poker with nobody knowing about it, is there really a difference?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The only difference is everybody knows about it. And I would probably go as far as to speculate that I'd rather not know that everybody know my fucking name and I have all this money as opposed to doing it on their table and nobody knowing anything.
That's a good point too. When I try to play strictly, I had a lot of people trying to ask me to buy them in all the time. I'm like, well, do what I did. But nobody would do what I did.
I don't think actually buying somebody in would actually help them anyway.
No.
I mean, anyway, in a vacuum, if they did win consistently or lost consistently or anywhere in between, they're still learning the same lessons, but they're not as valuable.
Yeah.
What it took you to learn it or whatever is not what it's going to take them to learn it. Yeah. And even if they do learn the same lessons, it's not really this. Well, it's not even not really. It isn't the same.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, thinking back, if I would have ever accepted somebody investing into me, I wouldn't have cared about the money nearly as much. So if there's no consequence, there's probably no consistent reward.
Well, I would say that there's no, well, we know there's no consequence, but there is a reward. It's just not as valuable as how I place value on a lot of things. It'd be more valuable. I mean, me personally, if somebody invested in me, it'd make me more likely to play tighter than I normally would, because if it was just my money, I wouldn't give a fuck. But if it's somebody else's money, it's like I have another source to get it from. Yeah. Hence the reason why I could be like, oh, I do some things that I shouldn't do with my own money, but be a little bit tighter with theirs.
It seems to me like there's an increase in guilt and confidence too.
Well, guilt, that's part of the value.
Yeah.
There's always guilt if you lose. Did I do something wrong? Maybe I shouldn't have took the loan. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. But it's guilt all the same. Yeah. How much it is totally different. Me feeling guilty with myself is one thing. Me feeling guilty with my money, somebody else's money. Now I'm not worrying about my own guilt. That's one problem. Now I'm worrying about somebody else's guilt too. Those are problems that you don't need.
Yeah, and if you're dealing with somebody who can afford to do that, to go to take you to the casino all the time and just put you in, then you don't. I mean, you feel bad, but you don't feel as bad. It's kind of a normal thing to not really care about people who seem to have.
I mean, it also goes both ways too. Maybe they're not good and they know they're not good. That's fine. But if you're winning and they're profiting from it, why split any of your profits with somebody else unnecessarily?
Right.
They're gaining something off of you doing what you already normally do.
I agree.
So you go from losing and winning everything on you as opposed to losing and winning, worrying about somebody else too. I don't care what arrangement you got, 80-20 or 60-40 or 50-50 or 75-20, whatever it may be. If you can win on your own and lose on your own, why would you do it with anybody else?
Probably because you don't know how to manage the money.
Well, if that's the case, then we got another issue before you start playing poker. If you can't manage money, then this is going to be a struggle for you anyway.
Hence why the game has probably been illegal, because of the gambling aspect. So,
yeah, I mean that's what it's for. I mean, we all started playing poker to love poker and to play it because we love it. And most people started out playing to win or lose before they even realized they were doing it for the money. Well, I played poker because I like playing poker. It was never about the money. When I learned how to play poker, I was like 16. My dad taught me. It was never about playing poker to win money.
yeah, okay.
It was playing poker to be good at something. And then later on, like probably when I turned like 20, when I got into college, it was about winning money. But then it was never about winning money to get rich or supplement income or anything like that. It was something to do to make extra money, just to have. Okay. And if I lost it, I lost it. If I won, I won. It was just money to do dumb shit with. Buy more beer or go to a concert or pay a bill or something like that. But it wasn't just to win like massive amounts of money.
Okay. Huh.
But now, I don't play poker to just play. Like there's like it's almost the polar opposite. Like I don't see the point in playing free poker if you're gonna spend $100 a night at a fucking bar, right, when I can just go buy in at a 1-3 for 100. You're gonna spend. I mean, it's gambling. It's gambling. I mean, my thing is making money work for you. If you're gonna go in there and spend $100 and you're gonna win $50, your net profit is -50. So why not just go buy in for 100, have some liquor in your car, drink it, lose, go home. You lost 100, you didn't lose 150.
Right.
But you're not gonna win more than 100 at a free cash game, or a free poker game at the bar. So my point is, are you playing it just to play it, or are you playing it to get something out of it? Yeah. And if you're playing it to get something out of it, free poker is pretty much like the middle ground. And the middle ground is worthless unless you're trying to learn to get better. Now that I can understand, you're getting something out of it. And that is not about winning or losing, it's about learning something. So
yeah, see, I didn't really think that free poker had too much of an investment for a while myself, but I started to understand that I have a bar tab all the time. I'm only winning ever so often, and then I got to pay out, but then I'm chopping some of that time too. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the negative, but I'm not spending the money on poker. I'm just at the bar. And if I wasn't there playing poker, if I hadn't been introduced to it, I'd probably be out drinking anyway. So that same money is probably going to the same area. Every so often I get a return on it. Anything else that I did, I would never get a return on that money anyway. See, the first time I ever played poker myself, I just was playing on my Zynga app. I wasn't paying on my City Beach when I moved down there, and I was just bored out of my mind. I went to go finish college, and I got screwed by the government. So I started playing on there, and I didn't know what I was doing. But every so often I would win, and I got that little confidence boost. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So I started looking for like poker places, and there was this place, the city called Ebron. It was just barely north of Pensacola. And it was an actual cash game. They have a Greyhound racetrack, just like the Pensacola one I used to play at. And it was the same exact thing. But I went and played there, got my ass kicked. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't really get that thing of I could learn it for fun.
Well, I also think that like your story is different than mine. It's kind of like parallel in some ways, but I also think that's how you start out. Like me starting out younger and playing it not for a reason was different than somebody like you playing it on Zynga. And then like I couldn't imagine playing it on Zynga, even if I did gain confidence, and then going like, I'm gonna go play cash.
Yeah.
Because then my thing would be like, this is an app. This is not how people are supposed to play.
Well, that's when you understand it.
Then I have the same fear that you had when you went and did that, because I had the same fear of playing it for years in tournaments for free poker and then playing cash and then going, why am I hyperventilating in the first hand that I'm playing? And it's a tournament, it's not even cash, and it's just plastic chips. And then
It's because you're sitting around a bunch of people you've never seen, and there's like social pressure. People are agitated because you're not doing certain things. You're not.
and you know what? That's not even the thing that you think about when you first start. First thing is about winning or losing. Am I winning hands or am I losing hands? It's pretty much what you're thinking. And then the other stuff comes into. You got a drunk guy over here. You got a guy that's telling everybody to hurry up, or a guy that's telling everybody to quit looking at their phone, or hey, don't do this, don't do that, or you're doing this wrong, or don't do that, or don't do this. It all eventually ends there, but it starts out pretty much the same. Nervousness, nervous energy, and it's just something you've never done before.
Do you remember the first time you played in public?
Oh yeah.
Where was it?
Haha. Rocky's Bar and Grill.
Rocky's Bar. Where's that? Or where was that? It's probably not around.
Probably should. No, it still is. So we're probably not going to say where it's at. Let's just say it was at a restaurant that was a bar and a grill, and they weren't supposed to have poker there, and it was illegal. And I wasn't supposed to be playing there at 16.
Nobody heard that. All right. Yeah. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah. So that was my first experience. So I started out playing with live people.
That's pretty cool.
Difference was live people for free for $100 is different than putting your own money up and playing live people. Doesn't seem like much of a difference, but it totally is.
How did you do?
Think about the first 3 or 4 times. I pretty much didn't do crap. I pretty much, Dad told me if your cards don't match cards on the board, fold. So I pretty much, if I didn't hit, I folded. If I did hit, I called and I got beat. I really didn't know the hand hierarchy, so I really didn't know how to play. I was just pretty much trying to feel it out. But then when I figured that out, I pretty much learned the next progression. Don't chase this, don't chase that. Pretty basic stuff. And then from that, other things form. Yeah, you didn't hit the flop, but you got these cards. You're not as bad off as you would with these cards. So learning little things like I would never chase a straight, or never chase a flush, or never chase a gut shot. Nowadays, I don't chase gut shots, but
It sounds like you had an intermediate strategy as soon as you started on.
well, my strategy was if you didn't hit, don't call. So pretty much I learned one rule, then another, then another, and then another, and then another. So it spiraled out of one thing. I just didn't walk in and just have. So I guess that was the other thing too. I had a backstory. There wasn't just of walking in there and just figuring it out on my own. I had something to go on from where I started, which probably lent a hand in how I learned. Because if I had walked in with another strategy, I probably would have learned the same stuff, but it would have took different ways of learning it organically. But I couldn't imagine just going in and not knowing anything.
Yeah, just completely blind to it.
Well, because the other thing I noticed too is even when I had that one strategy, when I played with people that I've played with for years, 2 guys especially, they tell people the same thing that I seen them tell people that didn't know anything. It all meant the same, but their advice was still true. Playing knowing something was almost as bad as playing knowing nothing, because then I formed habits. I picked hands that I liked. Oh, I like this hand, like that hand. Then I changed it to this, then I changed it to that, then I changed it to this. Ultimately, I knew halfway through that it really doesn't matter, because those hands weren't really the best starting hands. It's just the way what I preferred to play, what I liked to play. And that really doesn't matter. Because also, you're not getting those hands all the time. And there was one time where I picked a certain hand that I liked because I got it all the time. And then the weird thing happened is when I got that hand and I picked that hand, I never got it again. I just stopped getting it, which was weird. I went from getting it like 2 times a tournament or like 3 times in a session or like 4 or 5 times in a session to like going months, 6 months, year without having that hand. And then what did that do for me? How can it be your favorite hand if you never get it and never get a chance to even use it? You know what I'm saying? It's no point. And I went through a time where when I liked it, I got it, and I got lucky with it more often than I probably shouldn't have. And I made a lot of bad calls now looking back at it, but they were bad calls because I was chasing. But now that I don't get it anymore, I mean, it's the same thing as having a strategy when you walk in or not having a strategy. It hurt and helped. And it didn't do anything really. Because when you're not getting it, what does it do for you? It really doesn't help in any way.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
It almost went to a place where it messed my mind up because oftentimes when rarely I did get it, I didn't know how to play it. Like I knew it was a bad hand. So I'm like, you never get this hand and you shouldn't play this hand. But the fact that you just now got it is like, you haven't had it in a long time. Why not play it? And then it was more like, are you more enamored about you haven't gotten it in a long time and you want to play it? Or you know it's a bad hand and you should fold it? And you pretty much got to pick. Like, yeah. And then after getting beat with it a couple of times, I'm like, all right, look, bro, you need to chill out. Like,
that happens after you find out that it's your favorite hand too.
Oh, but the fact that I switched my hands is all the story too. Yeah. Going from 4 different hands and they're all being different. Yeah. I mean, what really is a good hand and what really isn't a good hand? What I learned out of that is
just some kind of significant event that happened. Like,
yes.
Like, you know, Seth, he and I both have the same exact favorite hand. And at some point when I had that hand, I had no reason to be in that hand with that hand. And I made a lot of money with it. And I was like, oh shit, how did that happen? And then it was my favorite hand. And for a while after I got that hand, I wouldn't lose with it at all. I was like, wow, this is a real streak. There's something to this. Yes. And then eventually started getting my ass wiped. I was like, it's still my favorite hand, but it doesn't always work.
The other thing I realized too is it wasn't just me having a favorite hand is one thing, but I didn't never realize that other people had favorite hands. Yeah. And then once I realized other people had favorite hands, then I was like, why would that be your favorite hand? And I'm like, well, then they'd be like, why was that your favorite hand? And I'd be like, well, I know my hand's garbage. Like my hand's garbage too. I just like playing it. And then I'm like, we're both wrong. We both should be playing this hand, either one of these hands, period.
Dude, how many times you look down and it's nothing? Okay, cool. Nothing. Cool. Nothing. There's my favorite hand. That's all. That representation is probably too often just in itself. Yeah. I mean, I get my favorite hand probably once every 3 months. That's being generous. That's probably too often.
I haven't played poker in about 20 days.
20 days? What have you been doing with your life?
Hold on. That's a lie. I haven't played cash in 20 days. I played poker in 20 days. But in live playing, I haven't seen that hand plus those 20 days probably 6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen my favorite hand in, oh God.
Yeah, see?
Ooh, 2019, for sure.
And you know how I know that the last time I saw my favorite hand? It's because I folded it.
Oh, no. I've done that.
I thought it was weird that I hadn't seen it in a while. And in the same night that I got it, last night I got it 3 different times. The first time I played it, I won. Second time I played it, I got waxed. Third time I was like, just leave it alone. I may have won with it. I didn't even stay to look at the board. I got up and went and had a smoke. I didn't even want to tip myself looking at, seeing what was happening. All I knew was there was a loss and there was a win, and I didn't want the tipping point to be me folding and then regretting playing a hand.
Damn. Man, maybe it's not our favorite hand anymore.
And well, my thing is it always changes. Yeah. It's just a nice thing to have.
Do you think anybody's favorite hand is aces?
Yes. Yeah. I flip-flop between that. Yeah. Once I realized my hand was garbage, I said, why not have aces? Yeah. It's the best starting hand in poker.
I guess so.
And the thing is, I've had aces more than I've had my hand in the last 9 months, so why wouldn't I play that?
Wow. Hey, you know what? Now that you mention that, I think I've had aces a profoundly amount more than I have my favorite hand.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, which is highly unlikely. It's weird.
Because you get aces how many times? One in every 256?
250, 225 or something like that.
Is it?
Yeah, 250 or something like that. Yeah. I think that it sounds right.
Yeah, I've been under quarantine or whatever you call it. I guess you have to be diagnosed to be under quarantine, but I haven't seen cards in a while.
You know the weird thing is, I haven't seen aces or my favorite hand.
Really?
Kings and queens and jacks and tens and nines and eights.
Well, I don't know if karma's a real thing. I feel like it is, but it's coming your way.
Well, you know the weird thing is, I don't really want it.
Hey, man.
You know why?
That was me giving that to you.
You know why?
Why?
I like playing with something that I know that I'm practicing with. Like if I know how to play kings and queens and jacks and tens, because I get them all the freaking time. Aces just freak me out because then I'm always on the one. I shouldn't have got it. What's happening now? And then how am I going to get beat?
Everybody knows I have this right now too.
I'm gonna lose. Yeah.
I struggle with that. Every time I get aces, I'm like, how do I disguise this?
Yes. See, my thing is always not about how I disguise it. It's about don't mess this up. And then 50% of the time, I don't even get a chance to. Everybody folds before it even gets a chance to even do anything with it. And one of those people that always limp with aces or kings and queens, never happens to me.
Really?
Never. I'm not a firm believer in it. I don't like it. I feel like when I do that, it causes more problems than it solves.
Really?
So if I ever did have that opportunity, I would never do that. But I've never had that opportunity. I've limped with aces, kings, and queens, and nobody bets behind. They always just fold, or they call, and then we check it down, and then they never bet.
Do you remember why you do it? Because the reason I've done that quite a few times, but the reason I only ever do it is because I feel like my table image is too strong. Like I've won too many hands. I'm like, it's going to be very obvious that. I mean, it could
Something's
just
different this time than opposed to any other time.
Well, I mean, it could just be my paranoia, but I've like when you run good. You know, we were talking earlier about that God seed or whatever. You know, that just sometimes you just get everything you want to get, and.
See, you know the weird thing about that is absolutely paranoia, because my paranoia is just different. My difference is not a lot of times when I have monsters, other people have monsters. Oh, yeah. I'm just, for whatever reason, I mean, it may change tomorrow or 15 minutes after this. When I have monsters, it's not very often that people have monsters with me. So my thing is, there's really no advantage in betting it a certain way, because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how really I bet it. Everybody just usually folds. So then it's like, does it really matter if I bet it or not? No, it really doesn't, because it doesn't matter what happens. I can check it and they'll fold, and if I bet it, they'll fold. And so it's like, there's no point.
Well, do you need a refill?
Yeah.
I'm in need of a refill. There's no more liquid courage in my cup.
Yeah.
It's about time for a break, so we'll be right back.
4 to 6 days later.
All right, now we're back from a break. Good to have you back. Do you remember what we were talking about last time? Our first time playing poker, right?
Yeah.
That's what I recall.
Yeah. I think that's the last thing I remember.
Where was it again? Rockies.
Yeah, but I told you I wasn't going to tell you where it was at, though.
I think you told me Rockies. So.
Yes, it did.
Mine was Malarkey's. Do you remember Malarkey's Tavern?
I do remember Malarkey.
That's the first time I ever played. I got second place that night, too. That was kind of interesting. I don't know what that dude's name was, but I've seen him a few times. If I pointed him out, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that guy. You know who he was. Yeah. But, yeah, that was an interesting time. First time I ever played live poker that was tournament style. I got second place. I thought it was kind of cool. Took a long time to get first place after that, but I just folded and folded and folded and waited for the nuts, and they hit sometimes. So I just got one of those little rolls at one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so tonight we've been talking about not tournament poker, but online poker.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a lot of experience on online poker besides Zynga and WSOP.
Yeah.
It's just a personal preference. I don't like to play poker because it has a bad stigma from playing on the app. But what's your experience with it?
I hate online poker.
Hate it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like face to face better?
Yes.
Why do you like face to face better?
It's hard. I mean, it's not. I'm saying it's going to say it's harder because it's really it's relative, but I find it harder for somebody to cheat in online or live poker than online poker.
That's true.
Like, I mean, if you're cheating at live poker, it's because like the dealer is like in on it, or you're cheating some way by like, I don't know, like looking at people's cards, or I mean, there's really not. I don't really know. I mean, unless you're a mechanic, and if you're not dealing, I really don't know how you manipulate the cards. So.
Because there's so much social pressure that there's obviously it's very hard to get away with anything that's deceitful.
Yeah, but I mean, what way are you actually cheating in live poker?
Besides being a dealer, the only thing I can really think of is if I'm looking at somebody else's cards.
That's what I'm saying, like angle shooting and shit like that. But I mean, other than that, like
that's true too.
I mean, that's pretty much if you're at a table and everybody's playing for money or in a tournament and you're at a feature table or whatever, it's kind of hard for you to look at somebody's cards and somebody not see you, because while you're looking at somebody's cards, somebody might be looking at you. So it's kind of hard to do that. I mean, unless you're the dealer.
What do you think about angle shooting? Like, when I think of angle shooting, I kind of think about Alec Torelli. He's kind of taken the cake on that one for a while because he had that, I forgot what size chip it was, but he had a pretty deep.
Oh, yeah, and he hit it behind his bigger chips, his bigger chips were behind his smaller chips. And the guy didn't know how much he had.
Was it like two $25,000 chips or something? I mean, it was like 50 grand or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, the pot, well, I think he had to call like 40-something grand or something like that. But he had two $25,000 chips, and he was waiting to call.
Was that player who called that discrepancy, was that player new to the table, or had he been there for a while?
I think that person had been there for a while. Right. I think they've been playing at that table for a little while together.
Yeah, see. Me personally, I've been back and forth with that situation. Like, I understand what he was talking about, and I didn't understand that rule until I started playing that you have to have that stuff in front, because that way everybody can count what you have. But I hate being asked how much you have in front of you. Like, dude, that's the first thing you're supposed to do when you sit down at the table, is count everybody's.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't have it in the front, then you can't count everybody's.
I mean, that's true.
I mean, I get the way the hand played out, I think he was still calling. Yeah. So it really doesn't, I don't understand, if he's going to go all in thinking that guy, he has that guy covered, and he'll fold, I mean, it's still on him because he actually went all in. Yeah. He can't make that guy call, and he also can't make that guy fold. Now, did he have his chips behind? I mean, we can argue that all day, where you can't see it, but at that point, it's kind of irrelevant. Y'all are in the hand. I mean, what do you do? Pull everybody's chips back and start the hand over?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm just thinking. I just put myself if I was in that player's shoes. No, excuse me. If I was in that player's shoes and I was playing that hand, I just know the way I sit down, because I know when I first come to a table and I sit down, there are 3 people that are gonna look at me and stare at me and try to check my heart.
Yeah, they're gonna size you up.
Yeah, that's the first thing I look for immediately right off the bat. And then I just stare at them right back, because, I learned that from Mike Tyson's psychology just from boxing. He's like, you never look away. If you don't ever look away, you break him. The first person to look away is gonna lose the fight. So, I remember that just from hearing that alone. And the next thing that I do is, I start getting hands. Well, just even the first hand that I start getting, I don't really even play it. I look at everybody's stack, and I count everybody's stack. Yeah. I look at exactly how much they have, and I look at how much I have. Yeah. So I know, I don't really care if I think maybe they're a better player than I am or not. I just look at how much I have compared to what they have. Yeah. So if I'm just sitting down and then he has that much money behind me or behind his stack, then yeah, I'm obviously being gypped. I have no idea he's got $50,000 behind that $18,000 stack. You know, because it's two huge chips that you just don't see. And that's the cool thing about playing high stakes poker, because you have those big chips, and instead of like throwing a big stack out there, which already intimidates people, you throw this little bitty one chip that's worth a whole bunch, and they're like, oh man, that's a lot to call because I have that chip equals everything I got right here. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I've been back and forth with that, but that's old news anyway. We should probably move on.
Yeah, I find it the same way. Like, I have big hands, so like when I cover my cards, people are like, I can't see your cards, or I didn't know you had cards. So like my thing is, I don't usually put my hands on top of my cards, or if I do hold them, I don't hold them with both hands. Like if I hold them like this or like this and then do this, because then everybody's like, oh, I didn't know you were in the hand. And I'm like, well,
Yeah, right.
I called, obviously my chips are out there.
That happens pretty often too. What do you think about looking at other people's cards? Is that cheating if you do that?
Absolutely.
No, do you think it's negligence if they don't protect their own stuff though?
I mean, I think so, but I mean, I really don't want to look at anybody's cards either.
Yeah. I would say for the most part, I usually look away. Like I can tell when there's weak players that are sitting next to me. Like I play a lot, you know? So over the course of time, I do notice ever so often there's a weak player here, there's a weak player here, just because they're just like flipping it up and looking. They don't know. They think that you're...
But I also think that when you do that, you also set yourself up for failure, because you're trying to avoid cards that are in their hand, and then you kind of like mentally you check out, or not check yourself, but you pretty much take yourself out of the hand because you think they may have hit something, but did you actually see what they had, or did you see the right cards? And then you make decisions based on their cards, not on your cards, or on how they play, or what they're betting, or anything else. You're just basically basically making your decision off of what they have, which may or may not help you.
That's true too. Yeah.
And the other thing is, do you really want to win like that?
Right. Yeah, that was kind of what my question that was going to be next was going to be directed towards. Do you want to be a predator at the table, or do you just want to be a gentleman at the table? Because I feel like this game has been directed towards becoming a gentleman's game, but if you think about what's the reason that you sat down in the first place is to take somebody's money. And that's just coming from you, but if you think about the 9 or 10 other people that are also playing, they also came down to sit down and take somebody else's money too. So it is like a game of cutthroat. So
I mean, I think you can be a gentleman and be a predator at the same time. Yeah. You just, I don't really deem by looking at somebody's hand as being a predator.
yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of just, I don't really know what to call it. It's pretty much cheating. It's what it is.
It is. I can't completely deny that. I haven't, like when I see people do that, more than often than not, I look away. Like I want to play right.
Yeah.
I want to be the best that I can be on a fair scale, because over the course of time, not only does my reputation matter, but I want to be people who are good or better than I think that I am. So I want to play correctly and learn. And even if I have to take losses, I'm okay with taking losses myself.
Yeah, because in the long run, it helps you.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because the only way to win is to lose. And that's a hard lesson.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to look at everybody's cards every time you play. That's just not what's going to be there.
It's not that often, but it's often enough to where I was kind of curious about another person's perspective of it. You know what I mean?
I mean, it depends on the person, though, too. Like, some people will look at it like, if you're going to let me look, I'll look. But my thing is that just gets you into more trouble than it really is worth.
You're probably right.
I'd rather kind of be caught angle shooting than like mistakenly putting my bigger chips behind and not really realizing it throughout the hand, as opposed to like looking at somebody's hand and then calling, knowing that they were beat.
I get that. But it's not like you're like going out of your way to looking. It's almost like they're showing you because they're completely negligent about hiding their hand. Now, the only experiences I can think of that myself is at a casino. I'm trying to recall just in my memory how many times I've seen other people do that. Probably at free rolls, or maybe some undergrounds too. I recall that memory on the top of my head off of somebody who's playing at a casino, and those people are usually rolling the dice anyway. So if that player is that weak to where they're not even hiding the cards, they're probably going to lose being there in the first place anyway.
I mean, usually when I go to the casino, it's not usually somebody that's like, everybody's like usually like, oh, I want to cover my cards. Or they're like this, or they're like this, or they hide it behind their stack and they're doing this. I mean, usually everybody that's playing at the casino, if they've played there enough or played anywhere enough for cash, they don't really want anybody to see their cards.
Yeah, of course not. I don't even want to like show it like as nearly as possible as I can. I used to. It used to make me feel good to kind of show, and ever so often I do too. Like we talked about that earlier about showing cards, not showing cards. There is a psychology behind showing cards for sure. But I don't know. I just kind of wanted an outside perspective on that too. I don't go out of my way to look at people's cards. That's obviously I would be a complete asshole for doing something like that. And but I don't know. I've seen it enough to where I'm like, do I look? Do I not? Because I mean, you're not hiding. You're like right here near this racetrack, and you're flipping.
Usually I just say, hey, I see blah, 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 blah. If that's your hand, I'm folding regardless, but I just want to say if it is that card, then we need to do this over again, as opposed to like, even if I like might have saw like it might be an 8 of hearts, it might be a 7 of hearts, it might be a 9 of hearts. If I say it and it's that, then I'd rather just fold and we start over. Or if they go, no, that's not my card, I'm like, all right, well, I'm folding. I don't want to be in the hand, because in my head I'm thinking, well, it might be an 8 of hearts, but they're saying it's not.
If we're being realistic, karma is a real thing. And even if you do take advantage of somebody who is negligent and that is their fault, it's still going to some kind of sense probably come back on you anyway, just because it's not the right thing to do. So I don't disagree. It was an interesting thing to bring up because I'm conflicted ever so often. You know? So, okay. So we got past that. It's still not the right thing to do. That's a conclusion there.
Well, you don't have to worry about that in online poker.
Correct.
Unless you're cheating already.
Yeah. So online poker, you brought up an interesting thing to me tonight, and you were talking about admins. So on this poker site you were playing on, there were 9 people at a table, right?
Yeah.
Right. How many of those people do you personally know?
Like 5.
You know 5 other people on the table? Yeah. So there's 3 people you don't know who they are?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to get into like the statistics to how many of them that you know that work for that club or anything. But so you at least have some kind of social experience with the majority of that table. And the other 3, they're just random.
Well, I hope they're randoms, because they also could be playing the admin could be playing and be having another account, but playing on the same table. So now he's looking at 2 hands as opposed to your 1 hand.
How does the account go? Is it by email? Phone number?
I guess it's just setting it up through email.
Is it? Okay. I don't play much online poker, so I'm just kind of being educated during what you're showing me about myself too. I don't like online poker myself. I mean, I've done really well on stupid apps where you have no investment in, like Zynga and WSOP. You know, like on WSOP, for example, I've taken 150,000 of chips that they've given me, and I've turned it in like over 2 billion before. Obviously, I haven't done it in real life. You know, so it's a completely different thing, and you'll get more better hands than not, because it's, you know, they want more people to play, so they're going to give you more chances to win. So it's a boosted thing, at least. I just didn't know how it was if you're playing like that too. It's kind of the same experience.
Well, it's like the World Series of Poker's online this year too. I mean, like, I wouldn't want to put $10,000 on and play online with other people. No. Like, that's just me, but.
Like the tournament, or?
Well, anything that's WSOP can only be played in Nevada or New Jersey, but it's all online. So.
Okay. So it's still down to those 2 states?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess those servers have to show where you're at. Man, that does narrow it down.
They're checking it by IPs, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? Yeah. I wish I knew more about tournament poker. As much as I love the game, it's just one of those areas I haven't just really explored, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to talk to more people about it. Okay, so online poker, it's cool, but it's not cool.
Yeah.
And during this quarantine thing, I guess it's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, it's pretty much that's it. If you want to be completely 100% safe, yeah.
Yeah, What do you think about quarantine poker? I know you sent me a message saying poker's never coming back again. Ever though?
I mean, it will always be back. I don't think I think there's a group of people like kind of like us that refuse to play online. So there will always be like live poker. But I think if anything like the pandemic happens again where we have to play online, well, I mean, that's pretty much the most efficient way to play.
I mean,
Do I choose it? No. Would I go out of my way to play online? No.
you know, I'm really conflicted on that myself because I love this game. Like if I had the choice, I would obviously win a WSOP and become a pro and play for the rest of my life because it's an amazing thing to do. It's kind of cool. I mean, I know it's a cutthroat thing that we all sit down here and take each other's money. Yeah. If you know how to do it on a consistent basis and you have a science to it, it's cool that you can do it for a long period of time until people figure it out. Then you got to recreate. It's just like an accordion. It goes back and forth. But I don't know. I've just seen how they've opened up things and they're like, and they're using their cup holders with like plexiglass and you sit between it like you're in jail and you're like, I understand that you're not breathing on anybody else. And as much as I love this game,
but you're still touching the cards. I mean,
it's one of the dirtiest games around.
I've got like playing sports. If you have a basketball and y'all are touching it, or a baseball and y'all are touching it, or you're a tennis player and you got a tennis ball and you're sweating, you're wiping your brow. I mean, it's bound to happen. I mean, it's pretty much one or the other, and there's no really in between, except I guess online poker for us. But I mean, that's like playing basketball. You want to play basketball online, like.
No, obviously.
That's not how you learn either, technically. So it's totally different.
I don't know. I've gotten pink eye from playing it just at the casino itself. I know that transmittable things are a real thing. I don't know. It frustrates me because I've been working on my brain for a long time and I've gotten to this point where I started getting all this momentum. And it's just, I don't know. I just don't feel like this is a realistic thing to be that scared of. Like the preemptive measures we're taking, I know it's transmittable and it's like an airborne thing too, but
I honestly think nobody knows what it is. I mean, there's so many cases where people have had different reactions to it. So it's like, you say it's this and somebody else is not this, and it changes.
There's extreme examples, and when you see those extreme examples, those are the most fearful ones.
Yeah.
But see, like me personally, I worked at a hospital for 4 years, and the thing at the hospital that they were like extremely scared of was tuberculosis.
Yeah, or influenza or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the flu was a scary thing too, but they always emphasized TB. Like tuberculosis was the thing they were scared of the most. So they cranked down the air conditioner a lot. Like anytime you walk in, like Baylor, that's where I work. Yeah. So the air conditioner in Baylor was cranked down a lot. It was cold everywhere I went because they don't want the spread of TB. Yeah. And if you look at the statistics of tuberculosis kills 1.5 million people every year. Why don't we already wear a mask? So let's just take Texas, for example. There's 29 million people, I think, in the state, right? Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, probably more than that.
Is it more than that?
Because I think there's like 8 in Houston, and I think there's 6 here, so that's what? 14. I think there's 2 in Fort Worth, and then San Antonio and Austin are like 6. Yeah. So that's what? 14, 20, that's 20, yeah.
20 already, so I'm not the greatest at math, and I mean, we're gonna post this video online anyway, so everybody's gonna fact check us and correct us, so let's just go with it. I'm gonna say 29 million, because I think I read that somewhere, but I don't remember. I think that was the CDC, but I don't remember exactly where I saw that. Yeah. But I saw that, I think it was today that I read that 2.5 million people took the test in particular.
Yeah.
So 2.5 million took the test, and 3,000 something people have died in Texas. Now, I don't know about the rest of the 50 states, and that's a lot more states. I know like New York, for example. New York was like crazily infected. I have a cousin who lives there. He got it. We have a poker player in the community that everybody knows. He got it. But the death rate is what 3,000. That's
Yeah, but I think the thing is err on the side of caution. There's acceptable risk, which is like you're saying, only a small percentage of people die from it. And yeah, we can all say that if we're not a part of that small percentage, it's like, yeah, who cares if I get it? I'll just get over it. Right. But if you're one of those people that's in the small percentage, then it is a big deal to you. But then the other thing is, do you even know what the small percentage is? Yeah. Is it asthma that'll kill you, or is it hypertension? Is it diabetes? Is it heart disease? Is it lung disease? Is it, they say, predetermined conditions? But I mean, what if you have not full-blown lung disease, but you're on the way? Do you really want to chance it? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
could that be the contributing factor that takes you down?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, the whole point is, would you rather take the risk and pay the ultimate price, or not take a risk and not pay the ultimate price? I mean, I've had this discussion with a couple of people, like the kids that are going to having COVID parties. I mean, my thing is, either do it or don't. Like, if you're trying to get it, and hope that you get it and you're immune to it. But now we found out that you can have it, not show any antibody, or have antibodies for it for like 6 months and then lose them. Right. And then you can get it again. Yeah. So, like, that's not really a realistic option for you. Yeah. Or you get it again, but you get a different strain. There's 30-something strains. Just because you got this one doesn't mean you're immune to this one. Right. And every time you get it, your health is a little bit deteriorated every time you get it. So my thing is, why get it to begin with? Just stay away from it as long as you can. If you have to get it and you've done everything you're supposed to do and you still get it, you couldn't help it. But going out and getting sick on purpose, there's really no point to it. And then we're not even talking about the other side of the story where you get it, give it to somebody else. That in itself should tell you you can't protect yourself from it, but you can protect other people from it. So it's what you can do and what other people, what you can do in effect, changing. Wearing a mask. I don't like it, but people say you have to. It's like wearing seatbelts, pretty much. Back in the 50s, my dad grew up, he said he never wore seatbelts. And then one day everybody was like, hey, wear these things. Right. They were in the front seat. They weren't in the back seat. Now they're in the back seat. Now you got to have a car seat. Crap changes. I mean, it's just time. I mean, that's pretty much, nobody likes change, but what do we all know that we're gonna every day that we walk out the door, life is gonna change. Right. People that don't change get screwed by it. So not accepting it is kind of pointless. I mean, just because that's the thing. Not wanting to is one thing. Having a valid reason to not want to is another. Most people don't have a valid reason. Like, oh, I can't breathe with a mask on. Well, okay. Would you rather get it and get sick and then can't breathe and need a ventilator? Like, right. You're arguing the same point. Like, you're not really making any sense.
Yeah. And I think for the general public, they're probably isolated already enough to where they're not going to meet every walk of life on a continual basis. Yeah. So, but for poker in particular, I think you know that just as well as anybody else does. Anytime you sit down, anybody that you could ever imagine, you're going to sit across from. The cleanest person, the dirtiest person. So it's the most interchangeable.
Yeah, it's like when you're sitting at a poker table and somebody's eating wings. Right. And there's grease on the cards. Like, it happens. And it's not like, it doesn't make sense for like, oh, we're going to change out the deck every hand.
Right.
Or
obviously
we're going to wipe down the table every hand. Like, it almost makes sense to just, like I said, play online to where you eliminate all that.
Yeah. I'm into number crunching too. And I feel like that's kind of what this is about. I feel like it's a number crunching game. You know, I was a regional manager at one point. I managed 4 states, and the thing that I focused on the most was crunching every single number that I could. The more my statistics looked good, the longer I kept my job. But I don't know. I go back and forth with this a lot. I'm really struggling with it. And I know we talked about the difficulty of the political aspect of it because it shouldn't be a political thing, but it seems to become one. Now, whether that's my opinion or not, I'm just
I just think people make everything political.
for sure.
I mean,
For
even
sure.
when it's not, they just do. And I think that's more dangerous than actually having a discussion like, why won't you wear a mask? Or why should you wear a mask? Or why shouldn't I? Or maybe I don't want to, but somebody's like, oh, well, you're a Democrat, so you wear a mask. Or you're a Republican, you don't wear a mask. And I'm like, we're not voting on a virus. Like, it's there. Or people say, oh, well, I don't believe it's there. And I'm like, do you really think all the countries in the world shut down their borders on purpose if it was a hoax? Or we fucked up our economy on purpose because it's a hoax? Like that argument to me is just completely stupid. Like, even if you don't believe it, like 90% of you doesn't believe it's true, there has to be some doubt in your mind that it is true in some factor. Yeah. And if you say it isn't, then you have to be completely stupid.
It is pretty apparent on the international scale too. I would have to admit that. I've noticed the divide, and like I tried to explain to you in that one text. Obviously, you didn't hear the voice come out of my mouth, but like I said, I've been an independent my entire life. So all I've been able to do is watch the Democrat side and the Republican side, and all they think is that if you're not them, you're the other. If you're not them, you're the other.
Well, that's just how people are nowadays. Everything is the extreme. Nobody has there's no middle ground. There's nothing that we can agree on. It's all of the stuff that you either with me or you're not, or if you're not, if it's either yes or no or black or white. It's not anything in between. There's no gray areas. Because my thing is, there's nothing is foolproof. Nothing is 100%. So being a Democrat or Republican, it's not 100% this way, and this side is 0, and this one's 100, and this one's 0. There's overlap. So thinking that one or the other, there's good in everything, and there's bad in everything. Communist China shut down their country. Can't believe their numbers because they lied, but did they stop it? Yeah. But you don't like communism because you don't like people telling you what to do. But here we are now because we have freedoms. I don't have to listen to the governor. I don't have to listen to the district judge. I don't have to listen to the mayor. I don't have to listen to my job. I don't have to listen to other people. You're still not solving the problem.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
people are still getting sick.
Right.
So the thing is, like, it can all be blamed on, I mean, honestly, to say is freedom. If everybody having the freedom to do what the fuck they want, then I have the freedom not to listen, which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a good system until there's the exception to the rule. Like now.
Yeah.
This is the exception to the rule. Any other time, it'd be great to have your own opinion and have I don't want to do this. Well, that's cool, but it's doing more harm than it's doing good. I mean, in just my mind, that's how I see it.
I agree. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. All right, so we're back. We've been talking about the coronavirus and the impact that it's had on poker. And so I want to give my public opinion. So we talked about the different viruses, which a lot of people have brought up. You know, that's one thing people do is they compare this virus to another virus. Makes a lot of sense, but it's easily discredited. Poker, dirty game, can't deny it. I've gotten pink eye just from playing at a casino myself. We touch our face every 20 seconds. So it's like 3 times every minute we touch our face. We don't.
Like 6 times a minute or some crazy shit.
Is it that much even? Yeah.
I think we touch our face like 2,500 times, or like 1,200 times a fucking day.
That's probably about right. Now, I'm going to go into something a little bit deeper, into one of those conspiracy theorist things. I know. But this is well thought out because this has been.
That's what all conspiracy theory people say.
Yeah. Where did this?
It's all thought out. It is thought out because you've been thinking about it.
Where did the term conspiracy theorist come from in the first place, though? It was coined by the CIA to discredit those who were questioning them in the first place. So, as a natural instinct, we discredit anybody who comes up with any kind of conspiracy theory. Anyway, so I have something that is really well thought out, and it doesn't even involve my experience. It involves the girl who I'm in a relationship with. It involves her experience. I don't know if I should say the company or not, but
No.
okay. She's so at the beginning of this year, she has been working with the company on an upcoming anniversary of almost 2 years. She was about 1 month away from being there for 2 years. Very, very well-known company. If I said the name of the company, you'd be like, oh yeah, duh. They're inside of malls. You would know them 100%. Anybody else that's listening to us, they'd be like, yeah, duh, that place. So,
Payless?
no, I can't say the name because you said not to.
I'm just guessing. I'm just trying to see your face.
It's not
See
Payless.
if I get it right or not.
I just gave the camera a clue.
GameStop.
I gave the camera a clue just now. So
GameStop?
no.
People that sell those calendars.
No.
Huh?
What? Yeah. I'll reveal it later. All right. So check this out. Right. All right. Let's get a little bit political, but we'll pull away from the politics later if we want to. So.
Journeys.
No, not shoes.
All right, I give up now.
Wristwear. Yeah.
Okay.
So my girl was working for this company, and I was just putting pieces of the puzzle together, and I was putting some patterns. Like, what do we do as poker players? We put patterns together. We figure out situations.
Yeah, but honestly, as poker players, we all know that sometimes we're just making shit that ain't really there.
That is true. That is true.
More often than not, that's what it is. It's not really. We very seldom get lucky.
I am more than willing to admit this is possibly a conspiracy theory.
Okay, come on. Take it too
But I don't think that it is a conspiracy theory. I think that I am correct. So the reason I think I am correct is because I put patterns together. So let's talk about Trump for just 1 second. On January 1st of 2020, Trump dropped a bomb on Soleimani in Iran. So the only reason I'm bringing that up is because it was the first day of our new year. So New Year's Eve, we're all celebrating and the next day, the very first day of the entire year, he does some wild stuff. So let's just wipe that under the rug. The next event that happens is during the very first week of the Chinese New Year, the coronavirus outbreaks. Now this happens, I think, on January 25th. And if I remember right, they start celebrating it on the 17th. So
it's around that time sometime.
It's within 1 week. I think it's 4 days within their new year, but they don't celebrate their new year on one day.
It's a set of days.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it might even be a month long.
I know with like manufacturing, they shut down for Chinese New Year, and it's not just 1 day. It's like almost the manufacturing usually shuts down with them shipping and any trade or any of that stuff is like usually a week, and everybody knows it's there.
Right.
It always happens every year. You pretty much set aside leeway for that to happen because it's always there.
Right. So January 25th comes along. She's already telling me that there's something going on in China. She knows about it almost immediately.
Well, there was rumblings.
Okay.
As far as I know, we heard stories out of as early as January 12th.
Oh, okay. Is it that far on?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's even before they're even New Year.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one I might say might be incorrect. I'm just putting patterns together.
Yeah.
Poker player. That's what I do.
So what did she know?
Well, she knew that product quit coming in almost immediately. And
before the Chinese New Year? or around that time.
4 days after the Chinese New Year started, because we have New Year's Eve and we have New Year's. Those are basically the 2 days that we celebrate.
Yeah.
So we go hard in the paint the night before, and the day after we celebrate the New Year.
Yeah.
But
pretty much no work gets done until like the 3rd or the 4th.
right. But they have like a 3 to 4 week period where they don't do anything at all. They celebrate almost an entire month.
Yeah.
It's a completely different culture.
Yeah.
So she knew something was going on, like basically right away. Something was going on and nobody was going to work. They were kind of on this lockdown thing. And they knew something was going on. And people weren't going to work, they weren't receiving product. And it was very unusual. So February comes around. She's like, hey, we're still not getting anything. Like there's something like serious going on. This is the very beginning of February. So it's a week later.
Yeah.
She's like, man, this is really weird. Like people aren't even going to work over there. It's almost immediately. I think this is like literally February 1st probably.
Yeah, I heard the same thing.
So February, right? I would say the 12th probably. February 12th, she hears this rumor at work that 40% of employees on an international scale are about to get a layoff. And that's right before Valentine's Day. Because I remember I took her out that weekend. I was kind of concerned that she wasn't going to have a job because she was really worried about it. February 17th comes around, she gets laid off. And not only that day, 40%, like she said, on an international scale, the entire company lays people off all across the world. 40%.
One company or multiple companies?
One company. 40% of their staff on an international scale.
Yeah, but also the context of that too is you also have to realize during that same time frame, there's like 15 or 16 CEOs that all stepped down right as that was coming.
Yeah.
On the tail end of the first quarter.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Okay, go ahead.
That's a lot of CEOs.
I'm with you to this point.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really start. I mean, we heard about it in the US. We could tell something was going on, but we didn't really start getting affected until sometime in March.
Yeah, we didn't take it seriously.
Yeah, I think it was at March 26th or something that we started actually doing the shutdowns
I don't
too.
think we actually, March 27th when my actual job did it. I know that there wasn't a scale as far as the United States taking action as a whole until about after March 15th.
Yeah.
I think the first week of March is where we started to first go, it's a little bit more than what we thought.
Is
But
that
we
what
didn't
it
take
was?
any action until like 2 weeks later. Yeah.
Okay. So
So like the first 3 weeks of March.
we didn't take it seriously till, what, a month and a half later?
Yeah, because they were talking about shutting down in March and hopefully being up and going in April.
Okay.
Hopefully the beginning of May. Because they were saying 8 weeks. 8 to 6 weeks. Which would have put us at like April, first week of April, second week of April. And then we actually did the shutdown. And then it was screw April, screw March. June 1st, we're gonna be right back.
Right. Yeah, that sounds accurate. And that makes sense too, because the amount of people who would come here through travel and the amount of people who would have that during that travel would spread it at that exact rate. So, I mean, just thinking just straight off the top of my head, that math does work, right, I guess. But it's just interesting that she knew so quite like right away.
Yeah, but was that thought in her head based on the industry she was in and the job that she had, or was it all encompassing? Like it didn't matter what the industry or what job she had. Because I knew at my job that the Chinese New Year was going on, which everybody knew, nobody had a problem with.
Yeah.
And my company in particular was getting a lot of products. We get a lot of our products from China. We knew the Chinese New Year was going on and we were going to have this pause. But as soon as we found out that the Chinese New Year was happening like normal, and we're gonna have this pause, probably a week later, we also heard that it's not just the Chinese New Year too.
Yeah.
We need to start worrying about how we're gonna get these products for the rest of the year. So our company buys all the products for what we use that year and the contracts that we have based on a yearly basis. So in the first quarter, we know what we're gonna buy for however many products projects we're gonna do for that year. So usually we pay for all that stuff in the first quarter, and then it trickles in throughout the year. But we knew at that point, if we were going to get 100% of this product, we only got like 30 of it, 30% of it. The other 70%, we didn't know when that crap was going to come. We didn't know if it was going to come like usual, a week late. We didn't know if it was going to be a couple months late. We didn't know if we were going to get it in the third quarter. We didn't know if we were going to have it by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So our company started making contingency plans on how we would implement new products to supplement those products that we weren't getting for the projects that we needed. So we had already started devising a plan on how we could keep operating without these products from China.
Okay.
So I get that point, but from my perspective, from what I saw with my company, I realized after that week, about after the Chinese New Year started, and we heard that it may not be coming or there may be a delay. That was a week after the Chinese New Year started. Then about 3 weeks after the week ended, we realized that it's probably a 50-50 chance. We're not getting any of it. Like,
So you knew that 3 weeks later.
so if the Chinese New Year was like end of July, we knew by like March 20th that we may or may not get this stuff. Like, we had to figure out what we were going to do for the stuff that we weren't going to get.
Okay.
Then it went from, oh, it's just not the Chinese New Year. Oh, it's not just that they have a problem. Oh, it's also that people are getting sick. So then they're like, all right, hold on. We have the lockdown. But before the lockdown, shut down all travel. So first it was planes from other countries to the U.S. Then it was from state to state, which is restricting travel. Only reason why I know that is because we were having a project done in Mexico City, and a project done in Monterey, and a project done in Dubai, and a smaller project done by another one of our clients in the Bahamas. We finished the one in the Bahamas because we got ahead of the problem. We just rather finish one project as opposed to leaving all four of them hanging. So we put all our eggs in one basket to finish that project. Monterey, Mexico City, and Dubai, we didn't have a contingency plan. Because again, we didn't know we were going to get that product. As soon as we sent a guy down to Monterey, he immediately got sent back. This is probably last week of March, third week of March. Then the shutdown happens, March 25th, 20th, something like that.
Right.
Okay? That was on like a Thursday or a Wednesday. The Monday following, so like the 31st or April 1st, we sent another team to San Jose. They land, they check their stuff in at the hotel, they go straight to site. Hotel doesn't kick them out. They shut down the construction site. All product that we ship to that site to finish in full, we usually finish it in 4 phases. We sent 2 different trucks with all 4 phases at once to finish it all at once. No breaks in construction. By the time the guys landed, checked into their hotels, showed up on site that night, the 2 trucks that we sent from Texas was in San Jose and on their way back They were in Arizona on their way back. The shipment was returned the day they got there. So now the guys are there with no equipment. Then what happens? Seattle and California are so in cases. I remember distinctly telling my boss, because one of the guys that I work with, my friends, that said, he goes, why are we going to San Jose when they're having all these problems? I said, dude, they're probably going to send me back. He goes, then why would they send us? I go, because everybody's trying to get their stuff done in a hurry before it all shuts down, if it has to shut down. Just like I said, they send them out there, they come back. Well, now they can't fly. So now they have to drive from San Jose back to Dallas. Now, reason why they had to leave San Jose is they couldn't stay in the hotel. Not because they couldn't stay there or they didn't have reservations. There was no food in the grocery stores. There was no toilet paper in the hotel. They did not serve breakfast or provide any type of lunch or food or breakfast or any of that stuff for the guys. So they had per diem, but they couldn't spend it anywhere. Nothing was open. So even if the guys could work, they had no equipment, no per diem, nothing to work with, and getting sent back. At that point, I realized this is not just whatever we thought was the worst possible aspect of this, it was that. Well, we're going to have guys work by themselves around the building. Well, when I realized they had to send guys back and they were closing down the state pretty much, you couldn't fly out of there, nothing was open, no grocery stores, no way for these guys to eat, no rental cars, no nothing. It was either leave them there in the quarantine area until we figure out what happens or it opens back up, or get those guys the hell out of there. By the time those guys got back, I realized at that point nothing was going back to the way it was supposed to go back to. And then everything after that progressively spiraled into the worst. Maybe it's just California. Maybe it's not. Georgia. Maybe it's not. We had a site in Augusta. We had a site in Charlottesville. All those states, same thing. Shut them down. New York, I think, was the only site that we had open, but we were only on the phase 1 there. We jumped the gun on that one, trying to get that ahead of time. Get ahead of the problem. They ended up shutting down New York because New York City was screwed. And Southwest is what we flew out of, flew into New York City. So those guys would either be going in through that problem or going out through that problem. Either way, they were going to be affected by that. After all the sites shut down, I think we had one site in Nashville that the guys drove 17 hours from Arizona to Nashville in a car. And then they ran into the same problem. Gas stations on the highways, nobody was there. So they're getting stranded in the middle of fucking nowhere with a rental car with no gas, don't know anybody, no hotel room. So then we pretty much had to pay for these guys to get train tickets to come back. At that point, I realized nothing is going back to the way it's supposed to be going back to. And even if it is, just like it had a gradual stop, you would only think naturally it would have a gradual build up to start again. So just as long as it's taking us to get to this point, it's going to take us just as long to get the hell out of this point, to get anything back to normal. At that point, I realized nothing is going to be the way it's supposed to be. Then when Dallas started having its problem, and they couldn't work in town, I realized at that point, it's a whole different issue. At that point, schools were starting to be shut down. We're not opening schools for the rest of the year. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Well, how are you going to tell a guy to go out of town? And the other thing is, some of these guys got kids. We got a disease. We don't know what the hell this shit is. Guys started calling, hey man, should I be out on the road? Do I need to be here? Guys that are single, I don't care about getting sick. That's cool, that's you. But now you got this weird dynamic. Because you got people that are like, I don't care, I don't believe this shit's going on, I don't believe in this crap. Then you got other people that, for whatever reason, they're genuinely scared. You can't really do anything to appease anybody at that point. Everybody has a legitimate argument. What I realized in all this stuff, that everything that's going on is, everybody has a point, and there's always somebody with a counterpoint. Everybody's right and everybody's wrong at the same damn time.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
On every level of this, every month this is going on, everything that has happened, it is all valid and it is all not valid at the same time.
I preach that every day.
What I do find to be the most upsetting thing about it is nobody's benefiting from it. Usually somebody's getting screwed. And usually somebody is losing. And we usually know who these two people are or what end of the spectrum you follow. With this, anybody wins. Dallas got more sports bars than any other state in the United States. Bars ain't open. People are out of work. Well, you want them to go, but do you really not want them to go? Then the governor says, we're going to keep all restaurants open. I never knew that 60% of Texans eat out. That's a ridiculous freaking stat. I get his logic. I don't want to leave my Texans out here not eating or have them fending for themselves. Especially when the grocery stores ain't got crap. We're still on the tail end of the toilet paper debacle. So you're not really providing them any reassurance in what's gonna freaking happen. Then they call the National Guard. Starts to bother me too. Oh, we just need them to check on people. That was about April. I heard that when I was at work one day. They're gonna go door to door, knocking on people's door to make sure they're okay. Now, that's nothing that bothers me. As human beings, if you don't know your neighbors, that's a problem. In the age that we're in, that you really don't care about anybody in, that's fine. But for you not to know if your neighbor's sick or if you've seen them or if they've been out or if you've seen them or heard them, that's ridiculous. Then you're going to send somebody door to door to go knock on them to see if they're there. Then you got the conspiracy people. Oh. Well, they're just going and dragging people out of their houses. What fear are you spreading? We're all fearful of the disease itself. But now you want to tell me it's the same thing as what was going on in China. Yanking people out of their cars and forcing them to get tested. Did you see it? Did we know it? No, we don't know. Then we find out that wasn't the whole reason why the National Guard was sent out there to begin with. It was to restore order and to makeshift hospitals just in case we needed them, which it turned into. But again, two people being right, two people being wrong at the same time. You got District Judge Clay Jenkins arguing about we should shut everything down. Then you got Governor Greg Abbott saying, hey, you don't need that National Guard. You don't need that fucking convention center. We just bullshitting and screwing off fucking assets. Call them all back. My question is, maybe District Judge jumped the gun. Maybe the governor was right. But wouldn't you rather err on the side of caution instead of wait till the hospitals get overrun and then call the National Guard in to build makeshift hospitals? Or would you rather build makeshift hospitals and not use them? What are the point of having people in reserve or in support for these reasons and then not use them in reserve or support roles? National Guard is there to help national disasters. Well, is this not a national disaster? Then you got the people that sent the ship from San Diego to New York. People start making conspiracy theories about, oh, they got a Navy ship here, and they got about 100 people on that ship. They only got 9 patients in there. Well, what people didn't realize was the 9 patients that were there were the patients that they couldn't keep in the hospital that didn't have the disease. They were already in the hospital for other things. The hospitals were used for people that were sick. Before we can find out if people were right or wrong about that, what happens to that ship? About 40, 45% of those sailors get sick. Captain comes out and says, disgusting. hey, chain of command, we need to get my sailors out of here. Or we need to figure out a better way to fight this or combat this problem. Because right now, we're not saving lives, we're putting more lives in danger. Before anybody can, make an opinion about that, what does chain of command do? Kick him out. Relieve him of command. Now, my question is, if we're out here to save Americans, we usually don't have the problem that people that are saving people are the ones that also need to be saved. Usually they're the ones doing the saving. But when you have the people that are doing the saving, just think about it like this, like a fireman. He in there to save 2 kids in a burning house. His ass catch on fire. Which scenario is better? The 2 kids in the house or the 2 kids and the fireman on fire? Who saves him now? You can't do no saving if you're the one who needs to be saved. Now, we could have thought about better ways to do this, but we didn't realize until about that point that there was some shit that was out of control that we couldn't fucking handle on any level. That was supposed to be our fucking ace in the hole. Military National Guard come in here, pick up the slack. When they can't pick up the slack, then what the fuck do we do? They're getting ravaged too. Then what also makes me, it kind of pisses me off about it is, people arguing this way or that way or their opinions or their thoughts. But we all know that that captain, what is his job there to do? What do you do when you take that job as an officer? I know I've been in the Marine Corps. It's looking out for the well-being of your sailors or your Marines or your infantrymen or your Rangers, whoever. That's his duty. But you're going to fire him for looking out for their safety, which you put him in charge to do. How does that look? If I was a young person, 23 or younger, there's no way in hell that I volunteered when I did in 2006 that I would volunteer now, seeing that. If the person that's supposed to be looking out for you can't look out for you, who does? And again, why would you volunteer? Because you're pretty much signing up for somebody saying, we'll put you in harm's way and we'll leave you the fuck out there. And that's okay. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody says anything about that. Like I said, all this shit is on different levels. And most of it is, I don't care what happens to the next man. Period. You don't want to wear a mask? Fuck the next man. You don't want to stay at home. Like I told you, people out on the road, homeless. They don't have a roof over their head. You worried about staying inside for 2 weeks. Hell's your problem? It's all about the next person. We as a generation don't care about the next fucking person. Some people do, genuinely. Most of us don't. People's bars get shut down. I want them open. Why? You're not going to have any customers if they're all sick and they're all dead. Other thing that kind of pissed me off. Protests. Not even going to begin to get on that crap. But people say, well, people out there protesting, they're the ones that spread the disease. Somebody that I respect actually told me something that made a lot of sense because I couldn't argue against that. But what they did made a lot of sense. Those people out there were protesting, they were wearing masks. Most of them. Cops and the protesters. If you want to go that route, picking sides. Why do you think the uptick was in the bars?